Anyway, were we able to figure it out? No.
No.
Okay.
Sorry, I've tried
That's all right.
every option I know.
Anybody else want to give it a try so we can have color?
That's a red wall.
That's a red wall. See, if we turn this around and hold it up,
You were a technical genius.
technical genius, the first time in my life. All right. Okay, so I've been filling in here to keep you occupied while I was doing this. All right. So, all right. So, I ended up going up to Foothill College and taking a class in landscape design. I had been trained, had my degree in U.S. history and education. I tried 1 year of teaching 8th graders U.S. history. And I said, thank you, God, I don't have to do this for the rest of my life. The hormones. It was just terrible. Anyway, so I knew I didn't want to do that. I went up and decided I would like to get a degree in landscape design, and I took some courses in photography on the side, so those came in handy. Anyway, so I'm taking landscape design classes, and Robert, my husband, and I ended up in Haifa, Israel. And he went out to the Technion, and I wanted to go see a kibbutz. So they assigned someone to take me out. And this gentleman had us in the middle of a desert. There was a sand dune, great big sand dune, a couple camels. I mean, classic, right? Middle of the desert. He said, this has once been a grassland, similar to California. But we overgrazed it, and we overlogged the mountains, and this is all our topsoil went away. Well, at that time, I had been working on a committee with the League of Women Voters, the Mountain View Los Altos League, trying to save agricultural soil. In this valley, we have a soil that's 30, 40, 50, 60 feet thick, alluvial soil, some of the best soil in the world. One of the best growing climates in the world, and what were we doing? We were paving it over, we were putting in lawn grass by the mile, putting in a few junipers, a few azaleas, and 2 street peas. Thank you very much. So when we got out to the kibbutz, the gentleman said they're making soil for this to grow the food for the city. It takes them 5 to 7 years and up to $20,000 to make 1 acre of agricultural soil. And here we're covering 40 acres a day. All right? In the airplane going home, the light bulb went off, and I said, we have our soil. Most of America, we have our soil, and we should be using it to a higher and better use than lawn grass. Taking the clippings off to the dump where they're a problem, putting on more petroleum fertilizer, watering, not just the water, but the oil that it takes to pump that water to get it from the Sierras to clean it and then put it on lawn. We should be using it to grow some of our own food. We have some of the best growing conditions in the world. So I went up to Foothill, and I told my professor that I would like to do my final paper on edible landscaping and use edible plants in the landscape. He looked at me and he said, it's called salad bowl gardening. It's tacky, 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 and no one ever does it. All right? And I didn't say you want to bet, but that's what I thought. So I knew I could do it. I traveled around the world. We're the only country that doesn't grow edible plants in our front yard. What is with it? You know, we think about it. Do you see them? In Los Altos, yes, there are old apricot trees and there's citrus and so forth, but most of the country has almost no edibles anywhere. You can go for miles and not see an edible plant. So I did my paper, and I have to hand it to my professor. He said, you know what? You get an A. I'm impressed. You did it my way, you did it well, you did it your way, and you did it well. So this stage of the game, that's where I got started, and that's where edible landscaping came from. It has extremely deep roots within me, and it's kept me going for 30 years while I was considered the crazy lady in California. In the Garden Writers Association, I am, for years, was the only one that said we should use edible plants in a landscape. Almost everybody else, exclusively ornamental plants, period. When I went to do a redo of the book, I told Sierra Club Books, you have to listen to me. I am the only photographer in the United States that photographs edible plants in a decorative setting. I do not have a safety net. Well, you know, when they do a book on Yosemite, they have 50 photographers that have photos. I said, you're not going to find that. And they didn't believe me until the end, when they kept saying, well, don't you have a more lovely shot of that? I looked for 30 years, the answer is no. So take the one you get. But anyway, all right, so let's start looking and seeing what edible landscape is. And if you'd like to push it, let's see. All right, so I'm going to cover everything from fruits and nuts and vegetables, herbs, and really, there are very few edible plants that aren't beautiful. It is not the plant. Understand? You have been brainwashed to think it's the plant. It is not the plant. It's how you use it in the landscape. You're used to seeing farmer's rows. You're used to seeing hippie gardens where they didn't pull out the zucchini and it was all mildewed, right? You're not used to seeing edible plants in a decorative setting. So let's start and look and see what these look like. Can we turn a little more of the light out? What I started doing was exactly what my professors had me do. See, the colors are going to get, there we go. Now I'm happy. Whoops.
Do you want it all the way?
We have to have a balance between
Yeah.
What did my,
All right.
oh,
As dark as you can get it, because the lighting, the colors are so much prettier.
He can't.
KJ, I can't quite do this to the fine tuning.
All right, well, I shouldn't beg the subject, but you see the difference in the color. And as an egotistical photographer. All right, so why do we have crab apples?
Just leave it on. Just turn it off. Turn it off. What?
Is that the issue?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you handle it? All right.
Okay.
You know what we could do? We could do it half one way, half the other. All right. So why do we have crab apple trees in all of everybody's yard, but not apple trees?
I have apple trees. That's what Johnny Appleseed was actually planting those trees, because that's where you get the cider from.
Her point is that crab apples originally were used, Johnny Appleseed planted them all over the United States because they were used for cider. The national drink in America up until Prohibition was hard cider. Not wine, not beer, it was hard cider, and it was given to children as well as adults because they couldn't trust the water. Okay, so the kids ran around slightly buzzed. All right, so this is my apple tree. It's called a pink pearl apple. It produces gorgeous blossoms, but it also has apples that are pink inside, and they make pink applesauce. They make pink tarts. All right?